In this video, I want to talk to you about unisons and fugue. I have to say, when I was studying fugue at school, I think there's a huge bias in how we learn, and that bias is that we're learning to write. We write, fugues for piano, often because we study the well-tempered clavier. It makes sense. Also, it's easier to realize at piano. It's just a very convenient way of studying. However, one of the things I find writing a fugue at piano is that we often avoid the unison because it's hard to really hear it. Now, certainly if you study Bach, you'll see he had no issue with the unison. But I have to say, when you start writing vocal music, when you start composing vocal music, that the unison becomes indispensable in addition to the suspension. But I want to focus first on the unison today. If you look at measure 64 in a fugue I'm composing for my opera-ballet SALAMMBO, here is the harmony. So the first two beats, we have a note, in French we call it a note étrangère. Then it resolves. So the real harmony, I would say, is on beats 3 and 4. Repeat again. And notice that the distance between the other notes is a perfect fifth, okay? And we have 4 voices, so that's a very narrow range to fill. And when you're composing vocal music, you're going to find that you have to think a lot about the distances, because certain things on a piano that can sound resonant will feel very naked and empty if you don't have the voices close together, especially composing for children's chorus. And so you can see here I have the inner voices. One is on C sharp, okay, and one is doing 16th notes, and the other is doing something slower. Now, both of these elements come from previous ideas in the fugue. So remember, in fugue, nothing just comes out of nowhere. Maybe once in a blue moon, but in general, everything comes from something previously. Often, you do some little transitory element, 2 beats to get you into another section, and something from those 2 beats gets utilized later, which is actually the case with the 16th melody. Now I want to look at a moment where I was considering having a unison, or I didn't consider having a unison, and it actually caused some problems. So if you look at measure 63, this is the harmony on beats 1 and 2. And then going into measure 64. So the 2 chords are this. However, when I first was composing this, I had the outer notes. And my natural desire was to have a different note from the rest. This is partly from our counterpoint training, where we're encouraged to have full, les accords complets, as we say in French, full chords. But what I found, because I originally had a B here, which would fit into my harmonic style, so that was an issue. But if you listen to how the chords follow each other, it doesn't feel like a harmonic change, right? Do you notice they sound very familiar if you have the B? So just a reminder, measure 63, instead of the middle voice doing a C sharp, if I instead have a B, and I play the next chord, next measure, I didn't like the sense of contrast. So instead, I did what I didn't want to do. One could say it's still the same harmony, but there's definitely a richer sense of contrast. I have one more example to show, but I just want to remind everyone about my symphony, Help Is on the Way for Orchestra. I am looking to get it performed. I think there's a lot to share. I would love to have excerpts of it to share for orchestration. I'm emailing orchestras. I'm also trying to create some kind of lucrative, business or something in classical music that would generate the money so I could then fund the orchestra. But this is the very beginning. Okay, I want to show one more example of the unison. Oh, but one thing I forgot to mention, if you look at the first example that I showed, notice that there is a clear sense of contrast between the unison voices, right? Versus. I think this is essential to keep the impression of the independence of the voices. Okay. I want to talk now about the very ending. You'll notice that there is no unison. The last chord, okay, that's the true harmony. And notice that the outer voices form an octave. So there's a lot more space that we can fill in the chord. Thank you so much for watching.